Welcome to the Deadlifts and Pizza podcast, where we discuss no BS fitness and nutrition.
We're your hosts. I'm Laura.
And I'm Jamie.
Let's get into it.
Weekly back update. How's it feeling?
It's better. I still can't sit down, but
I feel like that's an issue.
Yeah. I mean, that's not
getting so much better. I can't sit yet.
That's not normal, right?
Right.
But I can for short periods. I can sit for short periods. I just can't do it for a long time.
Is it keeping your steps up?
No, because I'm just standing. And then because I'm standing all day, I don't have as much energy. So it's actually doing the opposite. You know what I mean? So that when I actually want to like go for a walk, I don't feel like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
I deadlifted though on Saturday again. And it's getting up. I mean, it's still low. It's still very very light, but it's getting up there. I did 175 by 3, which is like normally a warm-up set for me.
Right.
But
I did deadlifts last weekend, and you have those times where you go in and you can't get warm. It's like your body won't get warmed up. I felt tight. I felt no matter what I was doing, I just felt like tight, and then everything felt like lead, like it was nailed to the ground.
Yeah.
And I also did 177 by 5, which is normally my warm-up set. Yeah. I couldn't go. I probably could have if I really pushed, but it was one of those things where I was like, I feel like my body might break.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like I'm bracing properly. I don't feel like my back wants to do this. It's like groaning every time. And I was just like, God, everything feels so hard and heavy. And I think when those times happen, it's natural to look and be like, what did I do? Like, have I not been eating right? Am I in my monthly cycle? And sometimes, yes, sometimes you can track those things, but sometimes there's not a thing. It's just
sometimes there's not a reason. For me, it's almost always has to do with where I am in my cycle.
Yeah.
Like rarely is it something else. If it's anything else, I'm like, there's a problem.
Yeah.
what is going on? Yeah.
I was also just attributing it to January. You and I were talking earlier, your January in particular is like the coldest January freaking ever.
Yeah. It's the whole winter in general. It's been really cold. Like today it was -15.
Oh my God. Is that Fahrenheit?
It wasn't -15. It felt like -15.
It was at the real feel?
That's what it said. It feels like. So it was like 0 degrees or something, but feels like -15.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. So it hasn't been that cold here, but the air quality has been like close to purple, like very horrible air quality. So it's like there's multiple reasons you don't want to be outside, and it just feels, and I want to say this January feels particularly icky, but I feel like I might say this every year, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, every winter I feel this way, but no, the cold, it's not this cold normally. There's periods of coldness, but it's just hasn't really let up. There'll be like a warm day here or there, warm, like 30 degrees.
That's ridiculous.
But other than that, like, no, it's been like, it's been in the teens or less every day. And then some days in the negatives.
Oh, that's insane. I want to go back to Texas. I'm really looking for, because January doesn't feel, you get like 2 or 3 weeks of like 30s and the school's closed because everybody freaks out because it's too cold.
Oh, really?
But it just snowed. It was like a dusting. I'm seeing all like my neighbors and friends in San Antonio posting pictures of their kids outside, on your first snow day, and you bundle your kids up and you take pictures of them outside. But it's like you can still see the grass and the concrete. It's just like a dusting.
I didn't even know it snowed there at all.
It was a code red. Everybody was off school and work. Yeah. Even the government shut down in Texas, and everybody's posting pictures, and they don't have snow boots or anything. They're in jeans and tennis shoes with like a hoodie on, and they're standing out in the dusting, like making these tiny little snowballs, and it's like the biggest deal. And I'm just laughing.
We like up here, people make fun of people down in the South, like if it snows, they're like, they close everything. But it's like, you guys don't have snow plows and like salt and different things to handle it where we do. It's like, if we had a hurricane up here, we wouldn't know what to do either. So
no, it makes total sense. It's almost like when the temperatures in like the north hit like 90 and people don't know how to handle it, and they're like complaining and they can't go outside. Yeah. And we're like, what? That's like March weather.
Yeah.
That's a very nice day. 90 is like Oh yeah, that's nothing.
No, it gets in the 90s here frequently. It's like when it's over 100 that they're like, "Oop, don't go outside." Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny.
Especially with humidity.
For
Because if it's
sure.
100, it's going to feel like it's 120
Yeah.
with the humidity.
Yeah. Humidity is awful.
I wanted to talk about how much I love strength training.
Okay.
And I think everybody needs to do it. Like if you're not out there strength training, and by strength training, I mean compound lifts, low reps, heavy weights. If you're not doing that, you need to get on it because it's the best thing ever.
What made you what gave you this surge of love and joy that gave you the inspiration to talk about this today? Like, tell me the event. Walk me through it.
Okay. Because I haven't in like, I don't know, over 2 months it's been. And I miss it. I've been more hypertrophy training, not a lot of compound. I mean, they're compound exercises, but not like squat, deadlift.
So you're not talking strength training. You're talking strength training. Yeah, like training for strength.
Yes, not just resistance, not just training. Weights. No, yeah. No. That, I mean, everyone should be doing that too. But I mean, like, yes, full on lifting heavy, like I said, low reps, all of that.
Got it.
And I miss it so much, but because of my back, I haven't been able to squat. I haven't been able to, like, I could bench. Even that kind of hurts a little bit if I arch too much, you know. And I haven't really been able to deadlift heavy. So I've just avoided it, and I've been doing a lot of unilateral exercises and things like that.
And it's like blah, blah, blah.
It gets boring after a while.
Big muscles. Yeah. It's burning.
It's not the same. So I made a power building program. I'm like, I don't care. I'm doing it anyway. I miss it. So I decided to make a power building program. And the way I love doing that is doing
my back. I miss it.
Screw it. Every other week. Every other week is strength and hypertrophy. I love doing it that way because then you get that recovery week. Mm-hmm. It's not even recovery because then you're just doing a bunch of volume, but you're recovering from the big heavy
CNS fatigue.
The CNS fatigue. And then the next week you're recovering from all the volume and you do a lot less volume, but you're lifting heavy. And I love it. It flows. And I think if I do it that way, and I did it that way before, I probably wouldn't have hurt my back because I was just going like heavy. Mm-hmm. And so this was the first week of like more powerlifting, and I squatted today and I was able to do it. And my back hurt a little bit at the bottom.
Text me tomorrow, bro. Text me tomorrow when you can't get off the couch.
No, I'm no, really. It was good. And then afterwards I felt so good and I forgot how good it feels.
Yeah.
And I know everybody's probably different the way their body responds to things. But after strength training, I feel energized and I feel good. And I have like all these endorphins and I feel as long as I'm not like going super, super, super heavy, like PRing or something, then I'm like, but just strength training in general, I feel so good. And I didn't squat super heavy. I only did, because I haven't squatted in like 2 months, so I wasn't going to go crazy. I only squatted 135 pounds for 5. So it was like, that's really light for me.
Yeah, that's nothing.
No,
it wasn't that heavy,
but I didn't want to, risk it.
Yeah.
And then Monday I benched, and I'm doing it where I'm like doing those twice a week. So I'm going to bench twice a week, squat twice a week, overhead press twice a week.
But not like super heavy twice a week, right?
No, just one's heavy. Yeah. One is like for squatting, it's going to be, I squatted heavy today, heavy in quotes. And then Friday, I'm going to do a pin squat, where you rest it on the safeties and then come back up. Deadlifting is the only one I'm not doing twice a week because I don't want to do that with my back right now.
Those are great pin squats.
Yeah.
It basically forcing. So you have anybody that doesn't know what it is. If you're squatting in a cage and you put the safety bars there and you set them so that when you get to the bottom of a squat, you can literally rest the bar on there and you kind of rest your body just a bit under that, right? You don't come out of the bar or anything. You just kind of rest down a little bit. and then you come back up, and it's a totally different movement.
Yeah, it works on that starting strength from the bottom where most people have the sticking point that it's hard. Yep. So you're gonna work on that like strength because you're taking out all the momentum and starting from the bottom. So you're working on that concentric part of it.
I find, what do you think about pin squats versus just pausing at the bottom of a barbell squat?
Very similar. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you could. The benefit of the pin squat, I think, is that compared to pausing, is you might be able to do a little bit more weight, so you might be able to work that a little bit more. It's the same thing with like a box squat has a similar type of adaptation for it.
Yeah, I actually find the pin squats to be a little bit more challenging
because you're totally stopping.
And you're removing the weight off your back. There's something about almost like deloading and then reloading that true. Adds that extra bit. Like if I pause, it's still hard when you pause at the bottom, but the weight never leaves your back. So maybe there's like, I'm not sure. Something about it makes it feel harder. Yeah. I haven't done those in a while.
Me neither.
Cool.
Yeah, so I'm going to do that. Yeah. And then I'm going to pause for the bench. I think is what I planned. I don't know. And then next week's going to be more hypertrophy, and it's quad and shoulder focused.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I've been really not necessarily resistant to making new programs because I'm still doing it, but like I have all these other ideas of things I want to do as well, or things I want to go back like in my program library and like adjust. And I am just holding off because the platform that we use for all of our programs, they have an update coming this quarter, the first quarter of the year, for periodization in the programming. Oh. So you know how we have to do it workout by workout?
Yeah.
It's going to be in grid format so that you can just go down the weeks and change the reps for the exercises seamlessly.
I've been waiting for them to do that because it will save me hours.
Even just knowing it's coming, I'm like, I don't want to do anything until this update comes because it is so time consuming. Essentially what we have to do is we have to create a week of training. So if we do like 3 full body days, we have to create, Monday, Wednesday, Friday's workout. And then we have to copy that workout from Monday into the following Monday, then open up the workout on week 2 and change the reps for what we want it to be week 2. And then we have to copy that, paste it into week 3 and go into it and edit it. And it's so time consuming. Whereas it would make more sense to have it grid format. So you have week 1, 2, 3, 4, almost like a spreadsheet. And you can just go down the line week 2, because the exercises aren't changing. And well, that's the other thing about exercise. If I want to change an exercise for a client, I have to go into every single workout on that. So it's like, I need this squat changed out for a lunge. I have to open up workout 1 on Monday, workout 1 on the following week, every single workout, open it up and change it out. Versus if you had a grid format, you could just change it out once and it would populate. It like doesn't even make sense that they have it that way. The platform is amazing in so many other ways, but once this update happens,
it's not a ton of work, but also it's like,
yes, it is.
I'm going to miss something. Like I'm going to miss it because I'm like, did I change this one? I don't remember. And it would be a lot easier if I could see it all. And if I was lazier, I would just do basic workouts because I don't feel like changing it. But
yeah, it's so
I'm
so
like,
annoying.
I have to be creative. I can't just leave it there like that and be boring.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to say about strength, because I'm not done because it's amazing, is it's the foundation of all other athletic pursuits. So getting good at strength or being stronger will help you with all the other modalities, like whatever you're into, like if it's endurance, if it's speed,
literally
if it's everything it helps with. Even like you would think endurance, like how does it help with endurance? But even that, because if you're say you're a runner, if your legs are stronger, each step that you're taking is going to require less energy. So you're going to be able to move faster and longer because it doesn't require, like we've talked about this before, right? I have horrible endurance. If you want to beat me at something, if you want to, like challenge me at something where you feel like you can actually beat me, then that's the thing.
What an arrogant way to even phrase that. What an arrogant way to phrase your weaknesses. If you want to have any hope of maybe beating me, this might be an idea.
That's the thing. But even that, you never know. I will, try really hard to beat you. But yeah, no, my endurance is awful. And I've always been someone that's like when I played basketball in high school and we would run laps, I was always towards the back. I was never in the front or even the middle. I was in the back. And I obviously can train for it and get better at it. But even when I did, so there were times when I would before basketball season and it was better and everything was a lot easier. But now I was like the middle or the lower end. It's still like towards the back, but middle back. Like I wasn't in middle the front. Yeah. I could train for it and people that don't train for it are still going to be better than me. But the other day, or not the other day, but this happened like a couple months ago.
There's a difference between the other day and a few months ago. The other day, no, wait, I mean like December last year.
I'm sorry, my brain is, it's hard for me to collect my thoughts. So I just say stuff. It was a couple months ago and Juliana, my daughter, her bus would drop her off at the end of my street, which it isn't super far, but it's, a decent amount of distance. And I have to go to the end of the street to get her off the bus. And the bus comes at all different times. So sometimes it comes at 3:30 and sometimes it's like 9 after. So this day, and no, it's rarely ever early, but it does happen. And so I'm usually out there early, but this day it was like 3:10. I left my house. And of course, the day that I leave a minute late, the bus is going to be there, right? So the bus comes as soon as I walk out my house. So I have to run to the end of the road to get her off the bus. And it's far enough distance that old Laura would have been like, when I got her off the bus. Yeah. And when I got there, I was like, wow, I'm barely out of breath. Like you wouldn't even know I ran. And I was like, I wasn't sprinting as fast as I could, but I also wasn't jogging. I was running. And I was like, I do not, like, it must be from, all the training I do that actually, what's the word? What's the word I'm looking for?
Proved your endurance?
Carryover. Had carryover.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
To that. To that. And I'm thinking about like the burpees I do before. And I remember I was saying how much easier they are compared to before when I would do burpees. And I would actually practice burpees all the time. Now I can do like a bunch of burpees in a row. I could probably do way more now in a row with no issues compared to before.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I remember, strength training is carry over to so many things. I remember talking to the swim coach of my kids when they first started swim team, which they don't do anymore. But he was talking to me about his older kids and like the more competitive, maybe middle and high schoolers, and how, hey, you're a trainer and you're a nutrition coach. Could you help me? Like, what do these kids need to be doing? And it's funny because the answers are, they need to be squatting, they need to be deadlifting, they need to be training their core, anti-rotation, rotation, stabilization, like all the things. It's the same stuff. And there's some sports specific things you can add in, but for the most part, it's stuff that you add in, and that base level of strength really needs to be trained.
Yeah.
It needs to be there.
It's the base, it's the foundation. I learned like in the one, cert that I was taking that I never finished. I will one day. And there was a lot of athletic type information in there. And that's basically like strength is the first thing that you need to focus on. And then you can move on to like sports specific things and other things. But everybody needs that base and it will get you so far. And then once you get there, you need to be a little bit more specific. But it has a ton of carryover for everything.
Totally. So it reminds me of something else. I have a friend who has 2 teenage girls and they play soccer. And one of the girls tore her ACL and her meniscus, took her out for like a year from soccer, which is awful for like a early high school soccer athlete that has goals of playing in college, to have a year taken out. It was like devastating. For her and her family. And I think she's back on track now, but it's one of those things where the reason that it tore was because of the switching. You're constantly switching directions when you're running and that knee caving in and having that. Yeah. And the really sucky thing is that, like, first of all, that happens to women more just because of the shape of how our femurs like connect into our hip sockets. Mm-hmm. And so it's more common for women, just based on our anatomy, to have that happen in knee caves. So it's more common in female soccer athletes to like have that happen. But if you learn to squat properly and if you learn to deadlift properly, one of the things you learn is how to track your knee, you know, like even when it comes down to just the way your body moves. So you're building muscle around those joints and those ligaments, which is really important. You're building the strength, that powerful strength to be able to switch directions quickly, but you're also understanding your body. You're understanding how to brace your core. You're understanding how to align your knees. And not to say it would never happen, but having that base layer of strength can prevent difference. Can prevent things like these from even happening.
With athletes, the new way of training is called triphasic training. So you do like I'm trying to think of what it is, but it's like, you know, like eccentric, concentric, and isometric training. So you do, so those pin squats, that would be something you do in that training. And you train all different areas, and that helps you with that changing of direction. So those things don't happen. So that would probably be like the pin squat would probably help you with that starting, and then the deceleration, all of that stuff.
Yeah. But again, learning how to do it in the first place. So having like a couple phases of learning. The base first and then learning all of that. But it sucks because a lot of people don't, you know, I'd been talking to this particular friend about like, hey, bring them over. Like we can do training sessions, like get them, let's get them training of, oh yeah, we need to do that. Oh yeah, let's get it on the calendar. Oh yeah, you know, and never really committed. And then it happens. And then of course they're like, hey, so our other kid, we should really get her strength training. Like, just, it sucks. A lot of times you don't realize it until those things happen. Yeah. But what I could hope is that the messaging is changing a little bit. I would love to see more younger people investing their time.
And a lot of women or girls need to train their posterior chain more because we're quad dominant. You know, we are trying to grow our quads, but females are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just in strength training in particular, I have an in-person client that comes, and she was here yesterday, and she's one of those people who kind of almost like typically has the background of trying so many different exercise modalities, and usually in the name of trying to lose weight. And so she's done boot camp classes. So she came with like weightlifting experience. So her form is actually pretty good. But her weightlifting experience is more so in boot camp classes or with Beachbody. So she's used weights before, but it's always been higher reps, low weight, low rest periods, quick movements in between, burpees in between, you know, that kind of style. And that's just what she's used to. And so I have her on a new block where she's training like lighter weights. So we're doing a lot of pauses, a lot of eccentrics. And part of the reason is because she doesn't have a lot of equipment at home. So I'm trying to adapt for equipment at home to keep her progressing. But another reason is because she's on this really restrictive diet for gut health. I think I talked to you about that. And so her energy levels are really like low. So she's still working really hard, but the weight isn't as heavy. And she made a comment about it yesterday about just how hard it felt, even though it was actually lighter weight than she'd been doing. And then she said also, it's such a far cry from what I used to do too. Like I'm just taking rests in between in this slow and steady. And because of the eccentrics, I'm like trying to slow her down. Remember, it's a 6-second eccentric. Remember, 1, 2, 3, I'm like counting 4. And she's like, it's so hard to do that. Not just because it's hard to do that, but because I have this background of like quick. And I want to move through it quickly. And I asked her, well, what do you think, like now that you've really spent some time doing it this style, what's kind of your preferred? And she said, I really like the slowed down and really focusing on it. And I said, I agree with you, obviously. But one of the reasons I love it is because it's so obviously not just focused on your aesthetics. Like you can easily tie that in, but you have to slow down in order to see what you're capable of doing and in order to try to exert that same effort again or use that same weight again or do those same reps again. So you're so focused on the growth that you're making. Yeah. Versus every other way, there's really no way to see if you're other than like, oh, I didn't feel as tired, but there's no real way to see like we talked about the classes last week. Like you wouldn't want to do like a boot camp class.
No,
not having some way of seeing that you're getting better is so demotivating to me.
Oh yeah. That's why I was never consistent. I was never consistent with working out because for that reason, because it gets boring and then I feel like nothing's happening and you don't see the progress because your body doesn't really change that quickly. So you don't see progress. But if you are more strength training and you can add weight a little bit every week or whatever, it's so much more motivating. Definitely. And now I don't miss a workout, right?
Yeah, it's like very intrinsically it just motivating, and you have these multiple other factors, and I just
I wish everybody would do it. Everybody needs to go out there and lift some heavy weights and make me happy.
At least once. Like, I literally believe that everybody should at least have a full, like, 6 to 12 weeks minimum of really training for strength and eating at maintenance calories or above. Yeah. Everybody in the world. Every woman. I would love to.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I keep interrupting you. I'm like so excited, I guess. Excited. Just very excited. That's what I was going to say too, is that even if strength isn't your main focus or you hate it and you're like, I disagree with you, Laura, I hate strength training.
Do it anyway.
Do it for periodically, like put it in periodically, like throughout your training, because it will help you with whatever your other goals are. Mm-hmm. No matter what they are, it's going to help you.
Yep. Love that. Now I want to hear what you got.
All right. This one's short, and I kind of already talked to you about it. Eating before you work out.
Oh, yeah. You texted, you were like, I feel sick. I'm never doing this again. I don't care what the leading experts in the field on women's strength and health say. I will not eat before my workout at 6 a.m.
So I started doing that, and then I got the stomach bug over the weekend, right? And I worked out Saturday.
That's right. I forgot you had that.
And so I ate before my workout, and I was like, oh, I'm never doing this again. And then I got sick, and I was like, oh, it wasn't because of that. It was because I got the stomach bug, which, by the way, I didn't have it that bad. There weren't things coming out of me. I just felt really nauseous. I just want to let everyone know I wasn't doing
Nothing
that.
Nothing came out of me during this period.
No. I was just super, super nauseated. What's the right word? I don't know.
Yeah.
I always say it wrong.
I think they're both correct grammatically.
I don't know. People always say that's your due. It doesn't matter. I don't care. People know what I'm saying. Anytime I would eat anything, I would just feel like I wanted to throw up. So I couldn't eat much. So I thought that's what it was. But then this morning I ate again before my workout, and I was like, no, don't really feel good. But actually towards the end though, I felt a little better, and it wasn't bothering me. It was just in the very beginning. So maybe I'll try it again. But I was listening to a podcast and this was, I actually listened to it after I already decided that I want to start doing this, because we were talking about like, oh, maybe you should eat something before you work out. And it was with Dr. Stacy Sims. That's her name, right? The one that you like a lot.
Love her.
And she was talking about that, how women should eat before their workout. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever you say, Stacy.
Yeah.
And she was
it's Dr. Sims.
Sorry,
you.
Dr.
I'm just kidding.
and she's very smart, knows way more than I do, right? But I'm sorry, I don't think that's correct when she was talking about it, because she was saying that women, because of the way, something with our hypothalamus and we don't store blood sugar the same way or something, and or blood, whatever, something about our blood sugar, and we don't store carbs the same way. And she was saying that if you go into a workout fasted as a woman, you're basically doing nothing, and that you're going to you're going to be burning muscle, is what she was saying. And I'm like, that cannot be true. I don't care what you say and how much research you've done. That is not correct.
I haven't heard her say it that directly.
Yeah, that's basically what she said. Like you're basically wasting your time, because you're going to be using your muscle for energy for your workout. And I just don't see the reason why I disagree is because I don't know if she's getting this from like studies that she's done or whatever, or looked at. But most studies are done in these, like we bring studies here all the time, right? But there's, and we talk about them, but still I'm not like one of those people that think that they're like the end all be all, because there's so many flaws to them. And one of them is they're done in these like short time periods, right? And so you can't tell me that after 5 years of lifting consistently that my body isn't freaking out every time I work out, because basically she's saying your body's like, it's like stressed out because you're working out first thing in the morning without food, and it like kind of like freaks out. Like you can't tell me that my body's still doing that after 5 years. I think it's figured it out. I think it's like, okay,
I think our bodies are incredibly adaptable, and I think women's are less so. I think we're more sensitive to
we are definitely more
crap
sensitive
that we do, like because our endocrine systems. But yeah, we're still incredibly adaptable as evolutionary beings.
I'm pretty sure my body's like, this is what Laura does. I don't know what it thinks I'm doing first thing in the morning, but it knows
maybe
I need
you
some
should
energy.
have it read the Stacey Sims things so it can get on track with you.
I don't know. What do you think about that?
It makes me want to do some more research into maybe the studies that she's read. It makes me want to listen to the podcast. Okay. I definitely don't think nothing's happening. Like, I agree with you. I don't think it's a waste. Like, I don't see how that could be actually true.
Yeah.
I can see how you as in general population women, not you as in Laura, would be massively benefited by having glucose in your system, amino acids in your system more soon based on research I've seen or things. But to have it be completely almost like negated is hard for me to get behind.
I mean, I don't quite understand, because we store glycogen in our muscles, and there's got to be glycogen in my muscles that my body is using for energy. It's not just wasting away my muscles.
Exactly. That doesn't make sense to me.
No. The only way that makes sense to me is if maybe you're one of those people that are chronically always under eating and chronically dieting, then I could see that. But my body is like, okay, it knows, like, Laura eats. Yeah. There's no issue with food in Laura's life. There's food readily available.
Yeah, it's also, I was making a connection in my brain that I don't know. Once I verbalize it, it might actually not make sense.
Okay.
But
I don't make sense all the time. So
it's like, you know how people used to think you would fast, you could do cardio fasted, and just because you were burning through more actual body fat at that time, it meant that you were going to lose more fat than if you did it fed. But the reality is your body compensates. Your body compensates. If you're going to train fast, if you're going to work out fast, do cardio fasted, yes, you will technically burn more fat instead of, glucose, because you don't have anything in your body, but your body will switch later to make sure it compensates for it. So really the only thing that matters is that you're in a calorie deficit, right? Like, so we know that now, but they say there's nothing wrong with it. It kind of makes me think about that too. It's like your body's going to counteract that. It's not just going to do nothing. And especially if you are, like you said, you're eating enough total. So if you were under eating and then also training in the morning, I could see that. But if you're eating enough, if you're eating maintenance or even above, then your body's holding on to some of that stuff you ate last night. Like, you still got stuff in your system.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious as to what you said about like the way women store or don't store blood sugar. Now I want to know what that is.
I have to go back and listen to it, because she was talking really fast and they were going through lots of topics, and I have to go back and listen to it. But I did hear the part clearly about, you're just wasting your time, basically.
I also think, though, that there's enough evidence to support, for me, the idea of just eating generally around your workout. So I think if you were fasting before your workout and then not eating until 1 p.m., that's when I would be like, all right, you really should. Yeah. Especially, you're getting older, Laura. Like, you're in your 30s. Like, I think that most women need to not be doing that, because I think there's enough evidence to support that you're doing either more harm than good, or close to negating if you're just literally not eating and you're fasted and you're training in the morning. But you eat very soon after.
Yeah, I do.
And then you eat pretty late into the night, right? Like, I want to say like 8-ish maybe?
No.
You stop at dinner?
I stop at dinner. Sometimes I'll have a snack later on in the night, but normally I stop at dinner. I'm a front loader. Like, I eat a lot of food earlier on in the day, and then nighttime comes on, like, I'm full. Because I just get excited about all the food and eat it all at once.
Open the floodgates and then shut them.
Yeah. Like, okay,
there's no
I'm
trickle
full now.
Yeah. I've been thinking about this with Taekwondo, because my class on Tuesday and Thursday evenings is not until like 6:30, 6:50 at night. And that's like a very odd time because I don't want to eat dinner before then because I don't want to have a heavy meal in my stomach right before I like jump around and kick and exert myself and breathe heavy in a room of sweaty men. Like that's not what I want to do. But I also don't want to go in there without having eaten because normally by then I'm hungry for dinner. So it's just a very funky time frame. So I'm always trying to figure out, I'm still playing around with what's the best thing. And a lot of times what we've been doing lately is we just eat dinner when we get home, which is, it's like 8 p.m., which I hate, but it's better than trying to eat it before because I just don't feel good. But I'm also trying to figure out what to eat because I'll eat lunch and then I'll have an afternoon snack, but then I'm still hungry when I go to Taekwondo and then I feel icky. So I've been just having like a little bit of a snack, but I've been noticing like how I feel. And I've just been noticing that the emptier my stomach is, it can't be totally empty to the point where I'm like, my stomach's rumbling. But if it's just beyond that, that's when I feel my best, is when I'm not starving, but my stomach's relatively empty. Like when I get home, I'm like, oh my God, I need to eat now. That's how I feel my best. And on Saturday mornings, when I do Saturday morning Taekwondo, I was trying to eat just a little bit of something, like even just a little half of a chocolate chip granola bar. So I had something, but I actually feel better when I just don't eat breakfast. I don't eat anything. And then I eat afterwards. Yeah, I feel like I have, because it's not just how I feel in terms of like stone in your gut. Like I even have more energy. Like I can exert myself better.
I agree.
Yeah.
Food doesn't do well with me first thing in the morning before I work out. It just doesn't.
I can't say that I notice the same with strength training though.
No.
Like I like, and now I want to pay a little bit more attention to it. Like I like having a little half a PBJ like 30 minutes before, but it's still like, it can't be much. But if it's just enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting.
I'm going to try eating for like a week or two and see what happens, see if I like it. But so far, not a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And anyway, I don't want to like say that she doesn't know what she's talking about because she's obviously very smart and genuine, but
yeah, well, I think it's very important to always, I think I teach my kids this. You have to always say like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because that question will lead you down to help you find the answers. And maybe you will learn new things that you make it real like, oh yeah, that actually does make a lot of sense. And now I learned something. But I think it's really important to always like be questioning those and think about if it's applicable to you and et cetera, et cetera. I think that's important.
Yeah. And logically that it doesn't make a ton of sense to me, but
yeah, I do love a lot of what she says, but send me the podcast because now I'm interested.
Yeah, I will. One more. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts lately. This
Good
is
for you.
Another podcast.
Yeah.
And it's about dopamine. It's a podcast about dopamine, which I'm fascinated with dopamine. I'm fascinated with the brain in general. At one point, I wanted to be like a psychiatrist, but then realized that wouldn't be a good job for me, listening to people's problems all day and carrying that weight. Gosh.
Somebody asked me the other day, it was my Taekwondo friend. He goes, have you ever considered joining the military? I was like, yeah, I'm in a military town. He's military. Most of the people are military. My husband's government civilian, but that's just the world that I'm surrounded in. And I was like, nope. And he was like, really? I was like, yeah. And then I told him what little I knew about it and how I'm learning more now being in this community and stuff. And he was like, but now knowing what you know, could you ever imagine yourself being back? Because I think he sees me, he only sees me like in Taekwondo really. So he sees me as like, I think he sees me as like, oh, one of those like, I don't know, female soldiers. Like, like they're usually like fit and they're usually like, I don't know. I think that he envisions that, but I couldn't be more opposite. Like, and it was funny, Donovan walked in as we were having that conversation to pick up one of the kids and I was like, hey, he's asking me if I could ever be in the military. And Don was like, oh my God, she's like anti-military. But it just reminded me of that. It's like, I'm like, if they tried to tell me to stand like facing forward in formation, I would like turn around and stand backwards. And if they were like, oh, your hair needs to be up, I'd like have a wispy down. I'm like, what are you going to do about it? Like, I'm just too.
I can't. That's true. I can't picture you in the military either.
My dad got kicked out of the Air Force.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he got sent to like, they had a rehabilitation center in Hawaii. They like sent him there. Like what a punishment, right? But it was supposed to be like a rehabilitation center. And if you didn't do well there, then they'd formally kick you out. And he didn't do well there. He did not do well there. And they kicked him out. But it's partially because he's such a rebel. I'm not anywhere near him, but he would just do things he was not.
I'm not a rebel, but someone like yelling in my face, I'd be like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I'd probably start crying.
Oh my God, where in the no. Absolutely not. Wearing those uniforms they wear on a hot day? Absolutely not. I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt and you
Also, you know me and my freedom. Like, I don't want someone telling me what to do all day either. And I have to do
don't tell me what to do.
way. And I have to make my bed this way. I'm like, I'm not even fucking making my bed.
Even though I'm fighting for American freedom, I will not do what you told me to do. Absolutely no.
Especially making my bed. It's not important. Okay.
Anyway, continue. Dopamine.
Psychiatry. No. So I was listening to a podcast about somebody who's like an expert in dopamine. I forgot her name. And it was so interesting because she was talking about addiction and the cycle of addiction. And for people who don't know, dopamine is like the motivational neurotransmitter. So when you do something that's pleasurable or whatever, you get a dose of dopamine, and it's like it's supposed to help us stay alive. So back in the day when we didn't have, like nowadays it's like everywhere you can get dopamine very easily, but you used to have to work for anything you got, dopamine for. So it gave you the motivation to go kill the bear that you needed to kill,
Now we get it on YouTube.
yeah. Now we just get it like it's everywhere. So you used to have to work for it, and because you don't have to work for it now, it's kind of all screwed up. But she was talking about the cycle of addiction and how she talked about it like a balance. So think of like a balance where you put weight on one side and the other side rises, and that our pain and our pleasure, pain and what's the other word for pain? What's the opposite of pain?
Opposite of pain?
Yeah. Pleasure.
Non-pain.
I'm trying to think of the other word she used. Was it pleasure? I don't know.
Pleasure.
They're in the same part like of our brain, and your body wants them to be in homeostasis and balanced, right? So you could think of a balance like that. So when you do something pleasurable, you get like this shot of dopamine. It sends that balance up. So then your body will, she called them, like she said, she likes to think of them as little gremlins that come on the balance on this side. So it'll be on the pain portion to make this go back up, and your body wants it to be level. But a lot of times it overshoots so that this side will go back up a little bit higher. So now so it kind of makes you want to go do that thing more and more. So let's say you drink some alcohol, right? Which is a big shot of dopamine, right? So it raises that, that pain part up here. So those gremlins come over, shoots it back up, but overshoots it. So now you want to go drink more alcohol, and it gets, and then eventually you need more and more alcohol. And it's like this big vicious like cycle. And that's how people get addicted. It was very interesting. And obviously she explains it in more in depth than I just did. That was like a brief overview. But I was thinking about that a lot with food, because, a lot of people have addiction to, like, say, sugar. That's one of the things they talked about too, like a sugar addiction or whatever. And I feel like this makes so much sense, because remember when we were talking about how, like, when I'm on track, I'm good, and like food can be around, all these things can be around, and I'm not going to, try to eat it. I don't care. I don't need it right now. But once I'm like off track and like it's not part of my, like I called it, I'm like, it's not a habit anymore to just eat healthy. It makes me want to continue to eat that bad food. And I think this is why, because it's like this balance.
Like shot of dopamine, and then it's thrown in the trash can, and then it rises back up, and then you throw
and
it
if I just do it once, it's like not a big deal. But when it's like over Christmas, where it was like here constantly, I got this, like, it's so hard to get back. And I feel like that's what happens to a lot of people. And she was also talking about how everybody has a drug of choice. So there's certain things that'll give you that bigger dose of dopamine depending on who you are. And she was like, some people can have like one shot of alcohol and they're like screwed, like they're addicted from like just that one time they had alcohol. Whereas other people, it's like I don't have like an issue with alcohol, but food would probably be mine, where it's really hard. But food also is hard because it's the one thing that you can't just be like, I'm just not going to eat it anymore.
Yeah.
You need
I need
food.
to stop eating and cut that habit.
But it makes me think that there's this is like a good case of having those weeks where you just, I don't like to call it a detox, but kind of like detox where you just eat whole foods for a week.
Watch us bring back all those words. Detox went away. Diet went away. All these things went away. Now we're going to bring them all back because we realized they actually had a place.
Yeah, right. But I think that's a good word for it. I don't know what else to call it, but like
that's the thing, is that it was created. It's just people took advantage of it and you ruined it.
Yeah, not a detox where you're drinking like lemon water.
Detox. Let's go down this rabbit hole.
Yeah. But like, how you did the thing where you guys were eating whole foods for a week or something.
Yeah,
Stuff
totally.
like that. I think there's a really good place for things like that after you've had a time where you were like way off track and you're having a hard time getting back. Give yourself and it's going to be hard to do that for that week or two or however long you do it, but it probably has a big benefit.
Well, you're right, because it's not just your palate, it's like your brain and the dopamine, and there's so many things that you can kind of level out. That's so interesting. And when I think about that in general, I'm thinking about the different ways that people's brains are wired. And like, so I have ADHD, and so something I learned, but I didn't get diagnosed until I was an adult, but I don't have like adult onset ADHD. I've had ADHD since I was a child, and now there's all these like links. And and they talk about like the different, like you said, drug of choice. Everybody's got their things that they chase for those dopamine highs. And I could connect now as an adult. I used to be a big time liar. Like I would lie about anything, like things that didn't even make sense. I would lie about. I would make up lies just for the thrill of knowing that I could. And then as I got older, I kind of turned into a little bit of a klepto. Like I would steal from stores.
Really?
And I would steal stuff. It wasn't monetarily based. It was like, could I get away with stealing this? Let's find out. And the dopamine high from doing that, it would be makeup things in the makeup aisle. It would be, remember those teeny bop magazines where they would have your favorite person on the front cover, but they would have a poster in the middle. And whenever the issue came out that had the poster of your favorite band, I got really good at undoing the staples and getting the poster out and closing the staples and like getting out of it. And just that thrill.
That's so funny.
And there was always something. And then it developed into an eating disorder. But now I never thought those were all connected. But that now I can look back and be like, those were all my subconscious. But I was never necessarily drawn to drugs or alcohol. I never had that issue. And I don't know why, but it was something.
We are totally different people. Like I was like
really?
I was like a goody two shoes. Like I didn't want to do anything that, I mean, I shouldn't say like I did things that I shouldn't have done, like drank underage and smoked and things.
Yeah.
Whatever. But I would never steal something. No.
Yeah.
Like I would never be like, no, I'm not doing that. Like there would be times where there would be like peer pressure, like, come on, we got to do this thing. And I'm like, no, we're not supposed to be doing that right now.
That's better. I'd rather my kids be that way.
My mom didn't have to worry about me too much.
Yeah. I mean, I was pretty good. It was like tiny things, but it's not fun to.
I mean, you told me some stories.
Yeah.
Though I don't know. We can cut this out if I wasn't supposed to say this, because I don't remember if I was supposed to say this or not. But the thing with the train.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not. Yeah. I don't know if it's a story worth telling, but basically almost dying because I chose to sit in the middle of a train track on a bridge that you can't get off of quickly when the train comes.
Yeah. Because you're like an
it's always like
junkie.
I think that's a little bit like adrenaline / not really true adrenaline because it's wild.
Yeah. Oh, the other part about that too is you think about that balance is that if you make the pain side go down, your dopamine goes up. So that's why exercise and things like that and ice baths and things that people do can give you a big shot of dopamine, but in a different way. Like she was saying how it's not as addictive because you have to work for it, whereas opposed to like being on Instagram and the dopamine shots you get from that, where you have to like, it's just, you could just do it.
It makes me wonder, there's been a lot of things lately that make me wonder, how are we as a species going to evolve with stuff like this? Because it kind of feels like it feels like evolution stopped for us because we beat it, right? We learned how to beat evolution. And evolution is really only about what kills you consistently. So what adaptations do you create to not die?
Yeah.
And I feel like we beat that system as humans, but yet there's things like this that are these things that happen internally. Like are we going to evolve in some way because we're so we have so many dopamine hits throughout the day. And so we have this like imbalance, and these things that we're doing, even when we were talking last week about like the possibility of universal basic income and taking away the need for like a lot of people to work, and like, what is going to be how humans evolve in that process?
I don't know if we'll evolve, because not in that way, because like with the dopamine things, because it's such a long-term, like it's not like immediate issue. It's like over time you develop these chronic issues, and it's not like, you know what I'm saying?
But if everybody,
you're not going to starve to death,
right? That's what I'm saying. If you don't die from it, it's just going to be the problem forever.
Yeah, I don't see it changing. Like, if we adapt, it's going to be in bad ways. It's going to be like, well, you guys don't use your legs much anymore, so your muscles are going to just be very small. You're going to be born with small bones and muscles because you don't need them.
Yeah.
It's going to be stuff like that. Okay. Sounds good to me.
Good pod. Thanks for bringing so many awesome topics.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening. If you liked this, please share it, leave a comment, leave a review. We would appreciate it so much, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.